Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Andrew Yang. We're going to talk about Conan O'Brien. We're going to talk about Dax Shepard. We're going to talk about the 1994 Buick Roadmaster. We're going to talk about climate activism. We're going to talk about identity, and we're going to talk about a new angle of skirmish for Andrew Yang to carve out low millions, maybe double-digit millions of votes from Trump's own base. Let's get it. All right. I saw something amazing the other day. So I'm a big fan of Conan O'Brien. My youngest son, who's in junior high, is a big fan of Conan O'Brien from my own watching him. And, and so it's really, yeah. Conan O'Brien's a brilliant guy. So he had on another brilliant person. His name is Dax Shepard. I'm a huge fan of Dax Shepard. I watched Dax Shepard when he was on a show called Parenthood. Also, Dax Shepard is married to Kristen Bell. He is the husband of Kristen Bell. Kristen Bell is Anna in Frozen 2, right? And that movie is making... is probably going to make $1 billion and be the 7th $1 billion movie of Disney this year, right? There's a lot that's surrounding Dax Shepard. Dax Shepard today is in a show called Bless This Mess. I highly recommend it. Dax Shepard is a brilliant, brilliant actor, a wonderful person. He's really unique and special. He was also in a movie, right, called... By the way, his wife, Kristen Bell, not only is she Anna and Elsa, but she was Veronica Mars, right? And Veronica Mars is, if you haven't watched it, get to it. Veronica Mars is amazing American content, right? And the reality is, I really think Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell are kind of a power couple. They're a Hollywood power couple, right? Dax Shepard has a fraction of the success of his wife. I think one Frozen movie, of her Frozen movie. Frankly, I think Veronica Mars dwarfs everything Dax Shepard has ever done. But Dax Shepard is a really brilliant guy. I really like him a lot. He's very winsome and charming, and he's good classic American celebrity. And there's something really important that he recently said and that he displayed. Something he displayed. It's not even what he said, right? That we really need to hyper-focus on as Andrew Yang fans, right? Because it's a path to low millions, if not double-digit millions of votes that could be carved off of Trump's base. And Dax Shepard is the key. Understanding Dax Shepard and understanding identity and understanding American muscle cars is the key, right? We're going to get there. Thanks for your patience. All right. So Dax Shepard went on Conan O'Brien's show, right? He did multiple, he did a long interview. They cut it up into multiple segments on YouTube and put them all up. But he had this one segment that was really critical, and I think it shows. It's when two swords hit, right? And there's a flash, right? There's this flash of a spark that comes off the steel, and that's what it is. Conan O'Brien is steel, right? He's a comedy genius. He's also he's a political activist. If you don't think Conan O'Brien is a political activist, you ain't paying attention. But Conan O'Brien is deep into American politics, super deep. I actually think Conan O'Brien has changed the history of America, and Conan O'Brien will be the single most important reason that America owns Greenland during Andrew Yang's presidency between 2020 and 2028. And I think AOC is going to see the wisdom of it, and when she takes the presidency in 2028, right, we're going to be building just so many awesome things in Greenland. It's going to be ours. This is the future, right? I'm telling it to you now, right? But Dax Shepard is a huge, huge part of this. We got to get Andrew Yang elected, and we've got to be able to carve off low millions, if not double-digit millions of votes off of Trump's base. And when Andrew Yang shows in the primary that he can do this with incredibly innovative plans that and angles of skirmish that no one else even has the capacity in their brain and heart to fit these brilliant, unique, innovative plans the way Andrew Yang has, which is what Freedom Dividend is. Freedom Dividend is ancient UBI model with a modern flourish. And Andrew Yang is the brilliant genius who's bringing it to the world, right? Frankly, like he says, right? UBI's been bouncing around forever. Nobody gave two farts about it, right? Like MLK couldn't move it, right? But Andrew Yang is putting it front and center, and he has put a turbo on UBI and reforged it as freedom dividend, an American capitalist idea, right? Andrew Yang, this is exactly where Andrew Yang needs to go, into this really unique space that nobody else has the space in their heart or in their mind for. Okay, all right, let's get there. All right, so Dax Shepard goes on to Conan O'Brien, right? And he goes into this 5-minute segment where he talks about his 1994 Buick Roadmaster, okay? And he just talks for 5 minutes straight about his love of the 1994 Buick Roadmaster, the pinnacle of station wagons in American history. He's right. The 1994 Buick Roadmaster was the best station wagon America ever built, right? Dax Shepard bought one and put 700 horsepower in that thing, right? It is an absolute road beast, right? This thing eats trees for breakfast, right? It is, it is an American muscle icon, right? And my eyeballs were glued to the screen, right? Because I was seeing a person who had fallen in love with American steel, with American transportation, with American muscle cars, with American ingenuity, with the American V8, with the American awesomeness of transportation. We brought automotives to the world, right? Ford started it, and we, to this day, build the most exciting cars in the world, bar none. Ford versus Ferrari, Ford won, right? Like, Ferrari can step to the back, right? We started cars. We make the coolest cars today. Americans had the first car on the planet. We'll have the last car on the planet, right? American muscle is the red, white, and blue marrow in our American bones. It is part of our heritage, right? And when I heard Dax Shepard talking to Conan O'Brien about his 1994 Buick Roadmaster, this is really important. He's a parent, right? Now, he's a parent because he has little kids, and he loves his little kids, and he wants to give them a reliable ride, right? But he's also a celebrity, and he's also an American, so it's got to be a baller, strong, fast ride, right? That's pure American. That's capitalism, baby, and that's what Yang is, right? Yang is a Democrat who doesn't want to suck the awesome out of America. He wants to keep the awesome in. That's what Yang is. That's why he could beat Trump. And that's why Elizabeth Warren has zero chance of beating. That's why Tulsi has zero chance. That's why Pete Buttigieg has zero chance. They are all Dems who want to suck every cool, awesome, baller thing that our nation does out of us, right? They want to make us global citizens. They want to make us, they just want to make us pale, shallow shadows of what we used to be, right? But not Yang. He's like, let's make America think harder. Let's rise the poor to the wealthy. Let's not drag the wealthy to us, right? Let's not drag the wealthy to the poor, right? He gets it, right? And he skateboards. He was a goth. He likes Dungeons and Dragons. Akira's his favorite, anime. He gets it. He doesn't want to make America less, right? He's proud of our red, white, and blue bones, right? And that is, it's one of the things I love about him, and I think it's one of the reasons why he is gaining momentum, right? It's one of the reasons why I think he can take this Dax Shepard moment to the finish line, right? Where he can make Dax Shepard's reality work from a political angle. So let's move this forward a little bit more. I appreciate your patience as I'm crafting this idea, because this is big, right? All right. So Dax Shepard, right? He talks about this 1994 Buick Roadmaster. Now, there's tons of people who are who cares if you're into American muscle, right? You ain't special. Lots of people love American muscle. They love the Mustang. They love the Camaro. They love, the 1968 Camaro. They love the 1968 Mustang. They love the 1969 Camaro, right? They love the Judge, right? Like these classic American muscle cars. But who's talking about the 1994 Buick Roadmaster, right? Dax Shepard is. And the reason why is red, white, and blue motor oil runs through that dude's veins, right? He loves big, strong American muscle cars, right? And not only does he love them, it goes beyond that, right? When you're talking about the 1994 Buick Roadmaster, you're talking deep cut American steel, right? This isn't your, generic level, I like American muscle cars. This is dyed in the wool, I am an American muscle car fan, right? I love American muscle. I love American vehicles. I love American awesomeness, right? Now, why is that special? Well, one, like I said, 1994 Roadmaster, nobody talks about this thing except if you're a deep cut, right? So this guy is genuine, right? He is, an American muscle nerd's nerd, right? This is like deep, right? So deep that this isn't part of what he likes. This isn't a fandom. This isn't a like button. This is his identity, right? Now, why can I say that American muscle cars are part of Dax Shepard's identity? Because, well, one, all right, here's one reason why, okay? A whole bunch of reasons why, but I'll give you another reason. So Andy Richter, he's like Conan O'Brien's sidekick, right? And so Andy Richter's like, when Dax starts going on about this 1994 Roadmaster, Buick Roadmaster, Andy laughs and he goes, "What's that get? 4 gallons to a mile?" And Dax is like, "Oh," and like he went, "Oh," like it looked like he was in pain, right? He was like, "Oh, don't do that," right? And he knew in that moment, right, that his identity was under attack, right? This isn't about what he likes. This isn't about a fandom. He has red, white, and blue motor oil running through his veins. This is in his heart. This is in his mind. This is in his soul, right? He cares about this at the level of identity, right? If he couldn't drive American muscle cars, if he had to remove that from his life, he would no longer be Dax Shepard. He made a movie called Hit and Run. I'm one of the 4 people on the planet that saw this movie, right? And sorry for the interruption here. So this is a big deal for him. He cares very, very deeply about this subject, right? And it's more than just a fandom, it's a part of his identity. Now, how can I say that American muscle cars can be part of a person's identity? Well, I've been paying attention, right? Identity is exploding right now, right? So, one, identity goes beyond gender. Identity goes beyond preference, right? Identity goes to the point of catalyst, right? What sparks change in us? What sparks change at our soul level? Who are we, right? And that is no longer connected to gender. That is no longer, it's not so shallow as I'm a macho man. I'm, a pretty lady. Like we've gone so much farther, and we've now created these freedom axes, right? These axes of freedom on identity that are really, really important, right? So, and the idea that your identity can be connected to whatever resonates with you most, right? For some people, it might be their gender. For some people, it might be their preference. For some people, it might be a really unique combination of preference and gender. But the LGBT community, right? And it's important I said LGBT, right? Because there are other letters after that. Is it LGBTQ? Is it LBGT? Is it LGBTQIA? Is it LGBTQ question mark? There are other letters, right? And the reason why is LGBTQ has shown us identity goes to the point of catalyst. What resonates with you? You forge your identity. Nobody in the world says who and what you are except you, right? We now have the ability to attach what we desire to our identities, right? And Dax Shepard is not attaching American muscle cars to his identity. I am. Right, when I saw him talking on Conan O'Brien about a 1994 Buick Roadmaster, which nobody in the world talks about that car, right? And he puts 700 horsepower in it. It's part of his identity, right? Part of his identity as a father, part of his identity as an American, part of his identity as a celebrity, right? It's his identity. It's not just a fandom, right? And this is the point. Like with identity, we are expanding the definition of identity, right? Now, Dax Shepard, when Andy Richter said, "What's that get? 4 miles to a gallon?" He was hurt, right? And he said, Don't do that, right? He said it politely and in a funny way, right? He wasn't being harsh, but he was like, don't shame me for who I am, right? I feel that's what, I think Dax Shepard wasn't doing this on purpose. He was doing it subconsciously, right? He was like, yes, Dax Shepard is not a conservative, right? Dax Shepard is married to Kristen Bell. Kristen Bell works like she's in-house, man, on Disney. Disney most woke company on the planet. Dax Shepard is woke, but he loves American Muscle Steel, right? And I think if you watch this interview, you will see that Dax Shepard's identity is big engine energy. That is his identity, right? This is in his soul. This is part. I think he cares more about American muscle cars than he cares about his gender or his preference. This is his identity, right? This is what he lives for, right? And he has a wife who loves him and helps him, and he makes his own money. He can buy this stuff on his own. I'm sure they have an independent relationship, but they're in love, and they're a husband and a wife, and they have kids together, right? And it really blows my mind, like the idea that we can have an expanded idea of identity, right? Now, let's take for granted. Actually, grant me this. Grant me just think big engine energy is Dax Shepard's identity. All right, go along with me on this, right? Now, Dax Shepard finds himself shamed, finds himself put into a marginalized community where now, moving forward into a climate activist world, he has to hide. He has to hide his 700 horsepower car. He can't be proud of his identity, right? And we know from history that this is hard. We should not put people in a corner because of their identity, right? People need to be open about their identity. And Dax Shepard needs the ability to be open about his big engine energy, right? His identity as a big engine energy person, right? And the fact that he wants to drive a car that gets 4 miles to the gallon should not be a point of shame, right? So what does this have to do with Andrew Yang? Where's the opportunity? Where do we steal low millions to double-digit millions of Trump voters? Where do we project to the Dems that the ideas coming out of Yang are so unique and special and so forward-thinking, right, that he deserves to be elevated above this vanilla pack he is currently in the middle of, right? Well, it's Dax Shepard, right? So one, Andrew Yang's got 70 people. Somebody needs to make a call to Dax Shepard and say, we need you and your 1994 Buick Roadmaster at our next rally, right? And then I think Andrew Yang needs to start working on a speech that talks about identity at the point of catalyst, right? And saying, hey, Andy Richter recently shamed Dax Shepard for liking big engine, for being a big engine energy person. He didn't do it on purpose. He wasn't trying to be cruel. But we all know, right, that identity goes beyond gender. It goes beyond preference. It goes to the point of catalyst. It exists with what resonates in your soul, right? And if you are some really strange, really unique person that the rest of society wants to push back and put in the corner and say you don't get to drive your 700 horsepower gas guzzling American road beast, that no one gets to push you in a corner because of your identity. No one, right? And that's the point. Let's agree. Let's embrace fully, right? This idea that identity is no longer, right? These shallow definitions of gender, these shallow definitions of preference, right? Let's embrace the idea that identity goes beyond that. Identity is huge and important, and no one can be put to the side, right? No one can be pushed in a corner because of who and what they are, right? And I'll tell you right now, there are a lot of Trump voters who are very worried that their big engine energy is now to be shamed, and that when they drive forward their 1972 Corvette, right, their 1968 Mustang, their 1969 Camaro, that they need to be shamed for this, right? Because they are not embracing the current macro level climate activism that that is being demanded from the broad community, right? That identity is bigger than that, and that Andrew Yang will protect all identities, that he is a champion for LGBTQ, he is a champion for big engine energy identities, he is a champion for whatever, and there's even, that's the point, right? A perfect example of this, I think, is the brony culture, right? We still have bronies today. That is a very unusual identity, right? And a lot of them, people didn't get them, right? They were really off in a corner, right? And I think that's the issue, is there's an opportunity here for Andrew Yang to go to Trump voters and say, you have struggled with this idea of an expanding idea of identity, but it helps everyone, and everyone can find themselves in this corner, pushed to the back, marginalized, right? And I'm for making sure that whatever your identity is, it's protected, right? And I will make sure that even as we move forward with climate activism and making our earth greener and safer, there will always be a place on the road for the 1994 Buick Roadmaster and its premium driver, Dax Shepard. That is a nuanced, incredibly forward, open, broad definition of identity, right? And that is worthy of Andrew Yang's time, and I think he can deliver it. That's my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion on the subject. Please let me know below in the comments. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.